or an alternating anterior lunge, but I'm going to have maybe reach, or for me, I might reach opposite. For more adductors, and bring in the hamstrings, because they're very tight on me. When we're bringing in adductors, I can take up some of the motion in the sagittal, because I don't like that way, and then I add transverse. Or I take up some of the sagittal, and I add transverse or frontal. So those are my 3 exercises. I do them 3 times a day. I want to do 20 to 30 seconds of those. For me, that's probably going to be 15 repetitions, 10 or 15 reps, 3 times a day. And then I want to change my gait pattern. So it's either increased stride, increased arm swing, maybe increased arm swing, and I'm actually going to really emphasize reaching across, so I get rotation with hip flexors and adductors as I'm doing my interval training. So I did 3 exercises, 3 times a day, 20 to 30 seconds of each one. So it'll vary depending on the individual. 10 to 15 reps. Okay, for me to probably 15 reps. And I'm going to change my arm swing, but I'm going to purposely, I'm going to run or jog here, but I'm going to add this in as my adjustment. Okay? So, let's go down the list. But let's start bottom up. Calf. Okay? This we just talked about as a calf stretch. If I bring my forefoot up or stand on a wedge and come in, I actually take my hip flexor out a little bit. If I'm on the wedge here, my foot's this way, and get more calf. I can go on the wall. Can you see me, Cheryl? Here. Okay, this looks like a typical calf stretch, but I can add transverse plane in, or I can drive knee in. Or here, yes, I'm getting soleus as well, but I'm adding different planes of motion. I can do hip drivers, right? Or here. That's a calf stretch. Hamstring we just showed you, for example. Take up sagittal plane, rotate transverse, add frontal, hip flexor, hip flexor, hip flexor, and adductor, 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 add transverse plane. Rotator was back to here. Could also be here, really here, bend this knee and come here. Bend this knee and come here to get IT band and TFL. But you may want to add in different planes with it, because this, I'm locked down perhaps. So I may have to go here, or maybe just here with my hip driver. Okay? Thoracic, we can even stand and do different reaches. And if I toe in, I get more hip rotators and IT band. Toe out, more iliopsoas and adductors. Look at the muscles where the, I don't even want to say origin insertion, their proximal distal attachment. We know what happens in gait because we talked about it with the loading and unloading. Loading and unloading, just like we talked about in class. And how does that relate to gait and function based on what that muscle does, based on some attachments when it's going into the loading and unloading in the lower extremities. Back to loading. Loading, unloading, loading. And opposite swing at the same time. Loading on one side affects the other side and how it loads. Okay, so you got to look at both sides. And what's going on in the upper extremities. So, whether it's somebody can walk or somebody that does a drag to gait, they can get in the garage like we just did and do pelvic starters in a stride stance, or a toed in with pelvic, or a pivot, or lunge in 3 planes of motion, with or without reaches, in the garage, so to speak, in the pits, to take out to the track. Now let me walk, try to do reciprocal gait to make it look like unloading, loading and unloading, whether it's cerebral palsy, whether it's Parkinson's, whether it's a nervous system disorder, it's an age-related, it's an amputation. Try to get them as close as you can to what ideal is which is loading and unloading in 3 planes, gravity, ground, reaction, factor in speed for them, put them in the garage, do pelvic, upper, and lower movement, and then take them to the track and see what they look like. 3 exercises, change an arm swing or leg driver, moving, driver meaning driving the movement or persuading the movement, or that art of persuasion, as we call it the Summit course. Hip to be Fit at yahoo.com. Hip to be Fit, HIPTOBEFIT, Hip to be Fit at yahoo.com. This was part 2. See you next time. Thanks for playing. For myself and Cheryl.